What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today when I talk to you about Rivian, I want to give you a quick overview of some of the current data points, break it down on what's really been moving it today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently it is up 1.6%. As far as volume, 22.6 million shares being traded, 47 is the average. As soon as the market did open, they were kind of trying to digest this. So Fed Williams, if data calls for higher rates, Feds would actually hike. This massively is not what the market wants to hear. And so no doubtably, the market tanked. And then a couple things did really help Rivian in specific. One was a analyst rating. And oddly enough, of anything, it actually did cite, or the analyst did cite, a short squeeze. So you can kind of see right here. So Chris Pierce, who does have a 29% success rating, so kind of crap if you think about that, from Needham, did give a $13 price target. Still a buy, but they did reduce it from 15 down to 13. I did put out a video, I believe it was yesterday, on the top 5 EV most heavily shorted stocks, and Rivian was number 5. So it is interesting to kind of see the fact that there was an analyst that did cite a short squeeze when I kind of put that video out pretty much the following day or prior day. But in reality, I think the market has taken this as a very strong positive. And then plus probably as damage control, you did see this come out right here. So as far as a Reuters poll, it looks like the Federal Reserve to first cut rate funds in September. And that's roughly about 54 of 100 economists. So in reality, I think this again was just more damage control rather than anything. And based off of this, clearly that's BS, because people just, the broader market is not anticipating rate cuts, as you can kind of see, which to be fair, I think it has gone up from 30 to 45% of the likelihood, but still, regardless, not necessarily the best, and the market just doesn't really believe this. Despite that though, you have seen Rivian stabilizing somewhat. In my last video, I did say that big money was rushing into Rivian, and that's actually what kickstarted it to go significantly higher. So it did bounce off of that very, very low price of $8.26 because of A, the technicals at the time, and B, just big money getting in. So I want to go over all the data points and everything that you need to know, starting off with shorts. So shorts are increasing about 89,000 shares today. 19.79% of the free float is being shorted. Short score is 73.48%, and 136.68 million shares overall are being shorted. And like I said, of all the EVs, Rivian is top 5 most heavily shorted. So kind of crazy to think about. Cost to borrow average is 1.08%. You do see cost to borrow minimum being negative, so negative 0.2. So that does mean there is a broker out there physically paying people to short Rivian. So a very clear indication that there is manipulation. Looking at options, $3.81 million in calls, and then 3.61 million in puts. Sentiment wise, somewhat evenly divided, but 49% of all the options being done today are bearish. And of the call options that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly above 950 by the end of next week. So more of a very good recovery for that. And then looking at puts, you do see a consensus for it to be sub 850. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. When it comes down to big money getting in, ever since the rumor came out yesterday about Rivian laying off some staff, you do see just big money kind of being hesitant. So these are some of the transactions that have occurred today on the secondary market. So it is reduced in comparison to even when I did my last video. Like, it was immense, massive amount of volume was getting in, big money. So a lot of the volume being done is just algorithmic trading, feeding off of the several things that I did bring up already. So right now, I think this is something that you need to really watch for. Even though it was only 1% of their workforce that they are rumored to be laying off, it still is a very negative sign, especially leading into their upcoming earnings. No different than what happened in February when they laid off 10%. Like, that was a very big red flag, and obviously it was mimicked in their numbers. So clearly big money is reading between the lines and looking at this information and assuming that their upcoming earnings is going to be another fail. But as I've said in previous videos, even if you just look at their financials, like, logically it doesn't make sense, the fact that they have this amount of cash, but looking at their market cap, like, basically their market cap is just cash. And so yeah, it's kind of an interesting scenario. So I don't know if their earnings, even if it is a significant miss, if it will go lower than these prices. So I could be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor, of course. Moving on though, looking at dark pool. Dark pool is very, very popular. So this is often enough linked to shorting. So there's probably around a good 150 transactions being done today. Nothing really crazy that stands out more than $1 million worth. So it looks like there was actually none so far today. But with all that said though, I just wanted to go over this. So with it right now at $8.84, it is trading between this S3 and this S2. I am actually looking at the 1-day chart. So this is very strong support and resistance points. The low for today was $8.38. So during this crazy sell-off right here, but it did bounce off of this S3. So we do know that is a very strong support. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. And then just moving to the 4-hour, this is some support and resistance points just to take note of. Of course, it's not as strong as the 1-day chart equivalent ones, but it does give you good representation on where it might be heading next. So $8.64 is another strong support that you'll really want to watch for it to continue to hold in the next couple days. And then 902 is going to be that next strong resistance, which it kind of broke above temporarily, but obviously not really justified for it to stay there, so it's getting dragged back down. I have been playing around with this AI. I haven't really involved AI or kind of dealt with ChatGPT or whatever, but I did ask it if technically RIVN is a good buy right now, and they did say, or it said, I don't know what the hell to say, but it said yes, it is a long-term play, and it goes over its explanation on why it feels it is a good long-term position at these prices. So just pause it, read through it, and obviously it does state right here potential for a short squeeze, and it brings up the UBS analyst 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗛 upgraded Rivian from sell to neutral, citing the potential for a short squeeze. So a lot of analysts are actually thinking that Rivian is a squeeze play. I've never seen that actually happen, only because if you look at it, utilization is not at 100%. Cost to borrow is very, very low, so it's cheap to borrow shares at Rivian. And like I said, there is some brokers out there physically paying people to short Rivian. So again, to call it a short squeeze play, I've never really been bold enough to say that, but I'm not an analyst. So again, just pause, read through this and everything else that you need to know. So AI is seeing this as a buy. On the actual chart itself, let's quickly look here. So it is lower percentile of the Bollinger Band. Looking at stochastic, you do see a nice bullish deviation, so white line above the red, but it is very oversold. So if there's a good piece of news that does come out, then yes, in theory, you could see a nice run up, and obviously value investors getting in. And normally what does happen whenever a company does unveil at least laying off some staff, that's seen as a positive for the underlying stock or asset. But if you think about it, in Rivian's case, especially if you look back at the history of it, whenever it has laid off staff, it does tend to miss on their earnings. So we'll just have to wait and see. Ultimately, number of retail investors haven't been doing all that much, so it has been somewhat stagnant for that. So if you have been buying Rivian or selling, give yourself a shout out in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. It is free shares. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 7 fractional shares of the Mag 7, so a $35 total value. Pretty no-brainer if you ask me. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.